So we've talked about Marathon already. As we know, Marathon is the next extraction shooter from Bungie, who is now owned by Sony. They are the creators of Halo and Destiny. They initially teased it a few years back and stuff, but now they re-revealed it. Marketing's in full swing. The game's supposed to come out in September. Okay, and here's the next big game from Bungie. Now, the reaction to that kind of stuff was kind of underwhelming for the most part. A lot of people were like, ugh, an extraction shooter. Okay, if that's what you're going for. It was very lukewarm reaction. Not overly negative, but just kind of not impressed, okay? And so there were a few factors, like one, it has a paywall. It's a $40 game. Extraction shooters aren't exactly like the most broad appeal kind of thing. There are other things on the market that could easily compete with it. One of the positives that came from Marathon's re-reveal is the aesthetics of it were very lively. You know, it pops. It's definitely got an art style that is definitely offering its own kind of vibe. It can be kind of similar to other games, I would say, you know, more like akin to like Apex Legends and stuff, but still kind of its own, right? The catch is, turns out, all of it stolen. So Bungie confirms it stole art. Once again, we'll undertake a thorough review of the Marathon assets. So what had happened? This artist, they're on Twitter. So the Marathon Alpha released recently, and its environments are covered with assets lifted from the posters I made for in 2017. And you can look at it, and it's clear as fucking day. They yanked this entire aesthetic from one person's portfolio. That doesn't work at Bungie. I have never seen art plagiarism this bad, this apparent, clear as day. This is the most damning one. I hid loss in my design 6 years ago and nobody caught on. And so here from the future, if anyone doubts the theft of your art, this also confirms it. So this artist in a hee funny put a loss meme hidden inside of it. And here it is inside the game. That's loss. I've never seen art theft this egregious for something this commercial. The entire aesthetic of the game is like essentially ripped from these references and it's plastered all over the fucking walls. They took the text and everything. This is not the only like, you know, futuristic kind of like modern art aesthetic that we've seen in other games and stuff, but it's clearly copy paste. This is their work. And here it is all over the fucking game. Not to mention the color scheme, everything is yanked from this person's portfolio. All of this stuff. I didn't know that there were other cases of plagiarism over there. So a post on X earlier today, visual artist Anti-Real said that the Marathon's environment's art uses design elements pulled directly from her 2007 posters design. Bungie is of course not obligated to hire me when making a game that draws overwhelmingly from the same design language I have refined for the last decade. Clearly my work was good enough to be pillaged for ideas and plastered all over the game without pay or attribution. Anti-Real said that she hasn't been able to pursue legal action against Bungie due to a lack of resources. In 10 years, I have never made a consistent income from this work, and I am tired of designers from huge companies mood boarding and parasiting my designs while I struggle to make a living, Anti-Real said. So this isn't the first time Bungie has been accused of using the work of independent artists without permission. Just last year, Bungie admitted fan art was used while designing Destiny 2's Nerf gun and promised to compensate and credit the artist. In 2023, Bungie said that it would do the same for another artist after an in-game Destiny 2 cutscene featured a near identical similarities to their artwork. And in 2021, Bungie confirmed that a lot of fan art was accidentally used in a trailer. So it seems like there are other plagiarism cases where just kind of fan art being reused. This, however, is egregious. I've heard that apparently a ton of members of the art team all follow the artist who got their, that's what I've heard too. Yeah, is that a lot of people on the art team followed the person who they plagiarized. Again, to reiterate, the person who they stole the art from doesn't work at Bungie. They're a Twitter user and they've had their portfolio out there. The artist has never been able to make a living off of their art. And to me, I find the baffling thing is that, so now, like, you know, we're learning that all of this, you know, text, all of these, you know, decals and details isn't for a lore reason. Clearly, it's just taken from somebody else's work. You know what I'm saying? So there's not like really an in-game reason for this branding. It's just there because it looks cool because they stole it from an artist. And they confirmed it, by the way. So Bungie has issued a statement addressing plagiarism claims from Marathon, confirming that a former artist included unauthorized artwork. So apparently they're pinning it on an employee that doesn't work there anymore. So we immediately investigated a concern regarding unauthorized use of artist decals in Marathon and confirmed that a former Bungie artist included these in a texture sheet that was ultimately used in-game. We have reached out to the user to discuss, to the original artist to discuss this issue and are committed to do the right thing to the artist. And so they're pinning it on an employee that doesn't work there anymore. Convenient. So like, let me get this straight. The person who was responsible for essentially mood boarding and creating the wall assets doesn't work there anymore? That's convenient. You imagine they want to keep that person on their team considering it's all over the fucking game, wouldn't you say? It was a conscious decision from upper management to cut corners, and they determined that it was manageable risk. I think so too. I think they thought that the person wouldn't notice, or again, they would be powerless to do anything about it, or they were just incompetent and didn't care or didn't double check where this stuff was coming from. Even if the person was fired earlier or doesn't work there anymore, how in good God name do you get hired to work at one of the biggest AAA developers as an artist, and you literally copy and paste someone's portfolio? I don't understand how something like this could happen unless you're like dumb, incompetent, or evil. This is something that could have easily been caught so early by just doing a reverse Google search. Because if this information is out there, this is like public, they put their art out there, and this user has been posting their stuff and their portfolio is floating around. Just reverse Google search it. Any asset that you have in the game, reverse Google search. Boom. Instantly figure it out if it's plagiarized. For me, I think the most baffling thing is, and I'm sure I just want to chalk it up just like idiots online and stuff. There's some people who'll be like, she doesn't own the aesthetic. It's not the fact that they were inspired by a portfolio and turned it into their mood board and use it as a jumping point. No, they copy and paste their shit. I don't know who these fucking bootlickers are that are like, I'm gonna go out there and defend Bungie and be like, no one owns an aesthetic. Shut up. Also, shout out to Gene Park, who interviewed the artists at the Washington Post. I am of the belief currently that Bungie has obviously reached out to the artists to try to compensate them in some capacity, as they should. However, if this was the other way around, say hypothetically speaking, some hackers got into Bungie's back end and took leaks of Marathon before it was ready to be shown off and plastered it all over the internet, you know damn well Sony would send their lawyers and sue that person into oblivion. I think she clearly has a clear-cut case, clear as day. They admitted to it. I really hope she doesn't settle. She may have already done that, so whatever, get that bag. But if she was feeling up to it, I think if she got a lawyer, I think she should sue them into fucking oblivion. Chances are, though, they probably have offered her a shit ton of money to drop it. I mean, if they're smart, they offered a fuck ton of money for her to drop it. I mean, ideally, they should have asked her permission. All this would have been avoided, or paid the person. I mean, either way, they're fucked. Regardless, however she's compensated, if she doesn't end up taking them to court, that's literally her prerogative. But at the end of the day, the fate of this game is sealed, in my opinion. They are fucked. And on top of that, I don't know why they went through with this stream, but apparently, they had the alpha live stream, and the art director was on this live stream. I think they removed it. I don't know if anyone has footage of it. This is what they were looking like. What was he doing on stream? So initially they had the Marathon alpha live stream scheduled. The game is coming out in September. They're in full marketing mode now, but they had this scheduled already, a developer Q&A, and literally the night before this stream is when this information came out about the plagiarism. So they didn't have time to cancel it, and I don't know why they went through. I think they should have just not gone online, high key, but they still went through with it, and this is what was happening. As you can imagine, morale over there is in the fucking toilet. So we have this. Ex-Bungie dev says Marathon's leadership was extremely toxic and humiliating to work with. The Bungie leadership needs to be gutted completely. If there's one thing that I've consistently heard about Bungie, is that there are good people working there, but their leadership is ass. And if this fucking slip up isn't an indication that their leadership is ass, because how the hell do you let something like this fly? And again, convenient that, it was a former employee that doesn't work there anymore. It's like, first of all, I actually don't believe that. I do think this is just like a PR thing to just kind of save face. Yeah, former employee as of today. Yeah, exactly. When we saw the initial reaction of all the Marathon stuff, I did state that because of the lukewarm reaction to this game so far, and that Bungie is clearly desperate to impress with people, and they need this to do well, by the way, I did say that Marathon ran the risk of kind of getting into Concord territory, not because the game was bad or terrible or anything like that, but just being mediocre or lukewarm enough to where it was more interesting to talk about Marathon and kind of use it as a punching bag instead of having any interest in playing it. I don't think this game will have, flop nearly as hard as Concord. I think people will try to give it a shot because again, they have Bungie's reputation and all that. But even Bungie's reputation has kind of, not done so hot over the years because of all the Destiny stuff. This is quality. You know what I'm saying? This is a quality shooter. The problem is that There's a lot of them out there. I think it's gonna do fine out the gate right now, and I mean just fine, okay. I don't see this changing anybody's opinion on that genre, or people who like are not really familiar with extraction shooters being like, gotta play this, you know what I'm saying? I think best case scenario, this hits a niche. The extraction shooter people like it maintains well enough because of them. I don't see this doing well commercially across the board, large success wise. And worst case scenario, it would be more fun to talk about Marathon punching at it and talking about, oh, how much of a flop it is versus actually like talking about how fun it is as a game. The IP we want to kick of the month that gets turned into a bunch of, YouTube, the failure of Marathon, la da 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 da. It was going to be more interesting to pee poo poo on it than any interest in actually playing it. I said the game ran the risk of that. I'm also hesitant to label it dead on arrival. That was before all this. It's locked in. They're fucked. They're fucked. I don't see them coming back from this because, initially people were kind of underwhelmed from the looks of it. Now they have a legitimate reason to absolutely blast it to hell and back until no one wants to play it and it becomes an absolute flop out the gate. In fact, let's investigate. Mama, less research. Just Marathon straight up. So the first thing we get is the gameplay reveal trailer. We have the cinematic reveal trailer. We watched these last time. 1 million views respectively. So Marathon, there is no coming back from this. Marathon art theft situation. Bungie's Marathon nightmare just got worse. Marathon situation is a disaster. The future of Marathon. First impressions of Marathon Alpha. People not that excited. Marathon Alpha is not very good. Marathon's drama just got worse. Marathon is making a mistake, okay? Marathon livestream was a disaster. This is what I was talking about. Bungie devs exposed truth about Marathon and it's shocking. Insane plagiarism at Marathon. Marathon just killed itself before launch. I tried Marathon. I tried. A lot of people were not, like a lot of thumbnails are like, I'm not impressed. Marathon's stolen art scandal keeps getting worse. Marathon art scandal and Bungie's low morale and reacts. Now here's me adding to this pile. This is a Bungie's nightmare scenario, the betrayal and destroyed Bungie. Bungie is in huge trouble. Is it over for Marathon? That's what the landscape looks like right now. That's what the vibe is for them. I don't even have to Google anything else but Marathon, and this is what I'm getting. Marathon doesn't make sense. This was a month ago. This was the tone a month ago before they had any scandals. And now they have a scandal. A big one. Not even like an ambiguous situation. They admitted it. The only time people are going to mention Marathon is to make fun of it. When it's this bad, I think they've kind of earned it at this point. I know all the hardworking people there who had nothing to do with this, like all the programmers and I guess the environmental design, like people responsible for like weather effects or, animations. I mean, God, I don't know. Maybe other things are stolen. Who's to say? But it's like the whole thing's fucking ruined now because of that. Because it's plastered all over the goddamn game. It's literally the most superficial aspect of your game and you stole it. Probably more stolen stuff. Who's to say? And people can only assume that because now it's like, well, you have such a clear-cut case of it. According to Paul Tassi, so sources has told him Marathon needs to be top 5 sales of the year to be counted as a success. It's cooked. There's no way in fucking hell. Best case scenario, like even if they had no scandals leading up to release, it wasn't going to reach this number. They're fucked. Do you think they're trying to still release in September or does the whole thing get scrapped? I saw some people say that like they're internally thinking about delaying it, but they still said they're on track for the September release. They did, however, for June, they had like a series of marketing kind of lined up. They've moved that now. Like I said, development takes years. Marathon has been development for several years now. And I don't think they can delay it internally because of money. I think they've run their budget. They have to release it. I do feel bad for the people who are like probably just doing honest work and trying to get a paycheck and stuff. Again, their job is probably on the line now. I didn't think initially it was going to succeed. I thought maybe they would be able to break even. Now it's going to be, I think, guaranteed it's going to lose money, a shit ton of money. And so Sony is honestly looking like the biggest idiot in the room because they're the ones who fucking paid $2 billion for these bitches. And this is what they get. A game that's dead on arrival with nothing but bad press. But even if they were to come out and say, hey, we paid the artists like $1 million and they agreed to let us use our art, damn, just dumb. So they would have to delay the game a whole year, in my opinion, drastically overhaul the assets, and then they would have to make it free to play to maybe break even. There was still the issue of the fact that the game is being released in a saturated market and the extraction shooter genre ain't exactly like bumping out here. Sony, stop releasing shitty games as service. I know, difficulty impossible, literally. Bungie, the only thing really going for them when it comes to like recognition was that they were the ones who made the initial Halo, and that Destiny, despite all of its promises, has kind of like, mellowed out into a flop ultimately. Because like Destiny made money, it had a player base. I'm not saying like, it was for nothing, but like their monetization tactics were so aggressive. And despite the, the game continued support and stuff, it was losing, like it was selling less and less and less. The more Destiny existed, the less popular it got, which was like an indicator of like they were losing money. And now Marathon they were really banking on it. They're not even going to break even. They're either going to liquidate Bungie essentially sell them off to somebody else or fire a majority of them and turn them into a skeleton crew. So yeah, this has actually turned way worse than I ever could have predicted. And also the kicker, $40 price tag. It's not a free-to-play game. It's a $40 price tag. It's cooked. Was Concord free to play? No, Concord also had a $40 price tag. That's the thing. Concord wasn't even like that bad of a game. Concord was just like, it was so generic, people found it offensive. That's the way to describe it. It was releasing in a saturated market where there were other games that were more fun and free to play, and people just wanted to kind of like make it a poster child of like, here's what not to do. Marathon had a route where they were going to like release it without any scandals. It probably would have avoided a Concord fate, but I don't think it would have done super well. They have less than 4 months to try to salvage this, and I don't know how they could. I don't see them fixing this in 3 months, and if they were to take longer to fix it, it would cost them more money. And then it could come out and not sell, and it would be even more debt. So they're fucked. And I'm normally not like one to make that call. You know, I know like, oh, there's some wiggle room here, but I know gamer trends when I see them. And when people are this giddy about watching you fucking crash and burn, you're not coming back from this. You're cooked. Like, I don't think no one's gonna play it. I don't think it's gonna be as fast as Concord, where it literally like disappeared in 2 weeks. But like even successful live services, like initially out the gate, run up to this problem where it's like you can get a lot of buzz in the beginning and the player base can be kind of active in the beginning. But the second that player base starts dwindling and it takes longer and longer to queue into games, that's when it starts dying, and the writing will be on the wall very quickly within about 2 months if the game is going to stay up or not. Concord was interesting just because of how fast it went away. Babylon's Fall existed for a year before it disappeared, despite the fact that they had like maximum like 100 people playing it. Concord had like 42 people playing it. They saw immediately that it was dead on arrival, so that's why they pulled the plug, because it's like maintaining the game for like literally no one to play it just eats up more money. Marathon, I think, will have maybe like a few months before they finally understand like where the metric is going to plateau. Now, when this game comes out, you are going to see a lot of people probably posting like the Steam player base or whatever, and the making fun of the lack of people playing it. So Marathon, all of the press Marathon is probably going to get is from the lack of people playing it. Best case scenario, I don't see it living past a year. You know, I don't think it's going to dry up in 2 weeks like Concord did, but I do not see it going past a year with its current trajectory. I think it's going to be an abysmal launch, and then it's going to get even worse from there. So I'm gonna make a projection here, because the only metrics we'll be able to see is based off of Steam, because that's public. I think it's going to cap at around under 10,000. Like, you're going to see it average around 3,000 players within the first 2 weeks, which is terrible, by the way, for Steam metrics for a game like this. So, you know, you're here first. That's where my prediction is going to land. I think around launch, it's going to be roughly between 3,000 to 10,000 people on Steam on the highest end. And after that, it's going to just keep sinking and sinking and sinking until they pull the plug. Yeah, don't worry. They still have 5 other live service games to unveil and fail. This time for sure, they tell themselves. That kind of wraps up the marathon talk here. I am very confident to say that Marathon at this point in time, and I see no way they're going to dig out of this, is officially dead on arrival. It's going to be dead on arrival, and people are going to actively make fun of it and use it as an example of what not to do.
Death to all of them.
It's cooked.